This is a little bit different project, and so I'm going to do the first part, and then Sonya's going to come up and do some of the details. And so any of the stuff that I do ever, any of us do, it's the Swine Vet Center. There's 11 of us there, and so comments and stuff like that come from all of them. We are involved in 6 of the regional projects across the country. This is the only project, this one in southeast Iowa, that it is a control project. All the other ones are eradication projects. This project started in 2010. So within our group, we're actively involved in 6 of the projects. So as Noel said, there's been some setbacks. There's been a lot of PRRS the last 3 or 4 weeks, really all across a lot of North America. So hopefully we don't have to go all the way back to go on some of these area regional ones. And so this project is in a high pig dense area. So we're in southeast Iowa, Washington County. So this is different. We're not on the fringes of PRRS. We're right in the middle of PRRS. So you've heard me say it for 3 or 4 years. Like pseudorabies, we are able to clean up all the fringes. And some of you in the room are old as I am probably, that we started on the fringes of pseudorabies, and it was, what are we going to do with North Carolina? What are we going to do with Iowa and southern Minnesota? And so we had to figure out what to do. So we ended up, we remember how pseudorabies ended up. We did sows 4 times a year. We did 3 shots to piglet, one of them being intranasal. We did 2 times replacements besides their piglet shots. We learned a lot about depop and repop. We did partial depops and rolled pseudorabies out of some of those farms. So we learned a lot. And so one of the goals of this project was, when we grow up, what are we going to do? Or when we get to Iowa, what are we going to do? The same questions 20 years ago were with pseudorabies. Yeah, we can clean up North Dakota and South Dakota, but what are we going to do when we get to Iowa? So that's kind of the thought process that started this project. Is we're going to have to make progress if we are able to be successful like we were in pseudorabies. So in pseudorabies, we had a lot of pressure on us when we had to get farms cleaned up. And so North Carolina sat there for a long time, and when it looked like the rest of the world was making progress, then they attacked it very hard, and they were very successful on pseudorabies. So there was a lot of pressure at that time. The pressure isn't quite here. There's obviously a lot of dollars and more dollars in this disease than there was in pseudorabies. And so we want to kind of start, we got to get on it. This one's going to be harder than pseudorabies, was the thought process. So we're going to need to know what to do, we need to have tried everything when we clean up the rest of the country and we get to this pig dense areas. So if we listed project goals, 1, increase awareness of the PRRS and associated costs. So there's been good studies Iowa State and those guys did on that. We have a big cost. Everybody's aware of that. Reduce the incidence. We're in Iowa. We're not going to slow it down, or we're not going to stop it. There is going to be breaks. Can we reduce the incidence? We want to have fewer introductions of wild virus. The viruses, the 126s, 144s, they've all been tougher, it seems like, every year. So can we get less introduction into an area like this? Reduce the severity. So some of these breaks of these wild viruses on totally naive herds have been very, very difficult, so very depressing. So can we reduce the severity? Decrease length of time shedding. So BI has done some studies on vaccinated pigs and how long they shed. And so that's significant, and something we used in this program is, can we reduce the length of time we shed, so it doesn't maybe get as many farms in an area. We want to improve the biosecurity. That's a never-ending battle of improving biosecurity, and we haven't stopped it. A lot of our farms have showers and benches and, fumigation rooms, and it seems like PRRS keeps going. So what is the next, And so we want to increase our biosecurity and just continue to improve that. We want to be able to study, so there's been a lot of sequencing done, and so where is that virus moving? We had breaks last year in the southeast Iowa area, and local vet Dr. Branstad, you get kind of depressed on it sometimes, but you knew where they came from, and you saw how they moved. So you knew a lot about because of this study, so we're learning. And so It is always about grow finish. We get told that a lot. We want to make consistent pigs. And so even though we've had some breaks in this area, we're still making pretty good pigs and a lot of pigs. So that was some of the project goals. Washington County, very pig dense area of southeast Iowa. You know, counties don't always go along with, county lines don't always go along with pig farms and borders and stuff like that. So actually the map or the defined area is kind of a little crooked and crosses a bunch of different counties. And we've allowed people, you know, neighboring counties or stuff to expand the area. I'm 4 miles from your county border, so we're mapping and tracking and expanding. We're not going to go across all Iowa, but here's to the Mississippi River. So we've had meetings. We have meetings where the area veterinarians, all the local vets, and there's some of us from Illinois and Minnesota and stuff that come because we have clients in there, and then it's followed by a producer meeting. And so we have at least 3 meetings, try to have one every 3-4 months, and it's to increase the awareness. The goal was, that area has tried serum, we've tried cleanups, we've tried shutdowns, was to do mass vaccination of the entire area. And so we wanted to just see if an area had a high buy-in and we went mass vaccination, could this achieve some of the goals we listed earlier. So sows are getting blanketed 3 times a year. Piglets are getting done at 10 to 15 days of age if the sow farm is in that area. If they're wean pigs coming in from another area, they get done 2 or 3 weeks in after they've settled in. If they're finishers, feeder pigs coming in, we do them the first week. There's been ATP and MLV used in that area, but it's all been live vaccine. They've done MJ in the past and weren't very successful with that. It wasn't a big win versus just the regular vaccine. So we want to reduce the incidence. So if everybody's vaccinated, does that stop the incidence of bad breaks or the introduction of new strains into that area? And so Noel and them had some very good long-term history. We just have less than a year of history. So we're starting down our path of history. Sonya will show you some of the graphs that we got going. The bad breaks on negative herds are bad, and so if we can, you know, maintain vaccinated herds, everybody vaccinated, a very aggressive vaccine program, will it reduce the severity? And that's the question we're going to try to solve over the next 5 to 10 years. Same thing, decrease the length of time of shedding, improve biosecurity. We need to keep turning over every stone to figure out how it's moving around. We have a lot of suspect questions today because we picked all the corn in all of the upper Midwest and everybody started hauling manure and PRRS started going everywhere. So are we underestimating all the manure pumping and tracking that or hauling that stuff all around? So we're going to keep looking at that. We want to have less bad breaks. When we get PRRS and flu, stuff like that, you'd have your high death loss periods. And so by having all the sows vaccinated, all the pigs vaccinated, will we reduce the number of those spikes that we have over time of high death loss, crash farms, etc. So this is absolutely a control program. It's not an eradication program. It's to try to control PRRS and see if we can reduce the incidence in an area like this. So many of the same issues that they talked about before me here, Sonya is going to talk about some of them, are the same as we see on the regional eradication program. So we need a champion, we need a promoter. Is that a producer, a veterinarian, or other? In this project in southeast Iowa, we have their largest producer, Brenneman Pork, which their team is here today. They've been a champion for this area to keep pushing the health, keep trying to have better production, so they've been awesome to lead this. Sonya Moss is kind of our bird dogger. The local veterinarian for them, Dr. Branstead, he'll be speaking later. He's been a big supporter of this whole program, and you need that. These programs won't be successful at all if you don't have those local people. We have a lot of veterinarians involved. Some Branstead and Yoder and stuff are local. Dania and Hollis and myself come from the outside, so we need the support, as we've said, of all the veterinarians, because you got to do that at the SLAT level, talk to the producers and explain what your goals are, what you're trying to do. There are setbacks in every one of these. especially this time of year, and so you got to talk them through that, and it's a long-term goal. We need buy-in in this, because if we're going to have lots of people vaccinate, you need a very, very high level in both kinds of projects, because if you have somebody positive in an area, if you're trying to go negative, that hurts, and if you're going to try to vaccinate them all, you need a very high percentage of buy-in of the producers. The local vet is key. He defines the areas, interprets the status, gets the blood testing, rope testing, diagnostics all done. So very, very important, because they're right there every day. Sonya, who's speaking next, she does the oversight management. She's awesome, of just bird dogging, making sure the people, it seems like just in the pseudorabies days, you did blood testing on these farms every 30 days, and you'd get the report, it's time to blood test. You go, I was just there last week, and you look it up, no, it was a month ago. And so time goes fast. So keeping track of all this stuff, which you'll see next, very, very important. It takes somebody very good at keeping all that data. BI has been good, the website and keeping track of that. The communication that goes on, Sonya will talk about that, the producer and the vet, and they get to Sonya, and then it gets on the maps. So you keep everything current. If they're 2 years or 2 months behind, no one will like them, they won't use them, and so they got to be current. In an area like this, lots of all-in, all-out sites. We don't have those big 12,000 head finisher sites, those type of things. A lot of 4,000 head nurseries, 4,000 head finishers, they're all run all in, all out. So you think of all the changes, they turn positive and the next flow is negative again. So lots of changes that have to go. BI has helped a lot on the mapping. It's amazing how fast this project came and only started a little over a year ago, and there's 300 and some sites. And so BI has been a tremendous help in doing all the mapping. Status, which you guys are all aware of the different categories of positive, unstable, positive, vaccinated, negative, negative, and then the different types of farms on the maps. So I think, and Sonya will probably have more current data, but we had a meeting in November 15th. There was 315 sites all mapped out. And the local vet, surprisingly, that's southeast Iowa, they said there's still 100 sites that need to be mapped. And so just in one county area, there's tremendous number of farms in that area. Many of them might be smaller ones yet to get. What are constraints? There's still one fairly significant producer in the area that has not bought in to vaccine, not a believer in vaccine, not a believer in joining the group and moving pigs around. And so that hurts in that area because we don't have everybody on board. I think we'd say maybe 80% of the pigs are involved, but just having one larger one has hurt. The non-believers, how come they're non-believers? It's a long-term study, so we don't even have the data that Noel has. We're just starting to generate. Are there less breaks? Is there less shedding, et cetera? So we don't have any quick wins like when you're doing an area negative thing that, geez, we have 4 negatives, now we have 10 farms that are negative. So we don't have those quick wins. We have to look at production over a very long period of time. So there's no quantifiable history. There's producers and non-believers think PRRS is everywhere. PRRS is bigger than us. It's going to win. So those are negatives that are always out there. You have to get over that. And we won't get over that till we have longer-term data present. So also think vaccine isn't good enough. We obviously don't have a pseudorabies vaccine as a tool. And so, and there's an expense. They expense to vaccinate, expense to test, expense to catch pigs, or labor expense, etc. So those are some of the constraints. The measurements, yes, they're unclear, a little fuzzy at times, so they're difficult to compare. So we're just starting to get that data, and we'll show you that. And that's, if you have suggestions, talk to Sonya or I, where, say we should track this. We're open to suggestions because we want to get good data that we can show over time that there is progress being made. So Sonya will present graphs on year, by type, by location, comparison to other years. That's the goal of this project. Severity, that's going to be tough. Reduction of shedding, that's going to be tough to really measure and say, we're shedding less than we did in 06. That's going to be a tough one. The enhanced awareness, I think, some days, especially this time of year where it's PRRS, there's other things. So I think we've talked swine dysentery to the group. We've talked TGE to the group. There are other bugs in the world than PRRS. And so the biosecurity stuff, the truck washes, the manure pumping, the pig movement that we're doing, I think that is a side benefit to all the area producers, that they understand biosecurity better, because there is more bugs than just PRRS. Filtration, the Brenneman Pork Farm, 7,500 sows, started a filtration project. We're a couple weeks away from getting all done, all sealed up, which is typical for filtration projects. If you guys haven't done it before, you always get started in the spring, which ends up starting in late summer, which ends up getting done after PRRS already goes around. It happens all the time. And so start your filter projects early in the spring, because it takes a long time to get them done. And so there's large flows of Illinois pigs coming out of the Dania's practice. And so they've had been very good about telling us their status. They're doing some filtering in Illinois. So we are going to have large populations of negative pigs coming into this area. So, and they're all in, all out sites, so we're looking forward to that. The filtration, I think, in our area, in our practice, or what we see for data, there's over 200,000 sows filtered. There's been a couple, 3-4 breaks this winter. A lot of those 200,000 sows are right in the middle of southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, pig-dense areas, and so we'll see. There's a couple setbacks this fall, but in general, as much PRRS is running around southern Minnesota, northern Iowa, there's been many of them that have held. So I'll summarize my part. Southeast Iowa project is off to a good start. It's got an excellent coordinator, which we just wouldn't be here today if we didn't have Sonya coordinating that. We need to keep the momentum up. And so we've talked about that and showing graphs and showing progress because we're in a positive area and there's going to be PRRS move around. So it'll be easy for, I don't think all the producers, Laura, will say, that's an interesting journey. They need to see some progress and some graphs and stuff like that. And so Sonya will share some of these progress reports on what we've done.
So we're going to talk about what's working in Southeast Iowa so far. I've actually only been in the industry for about 9 months. I'm new to Brenneman Pork, so this is all very new to me. So we're all learning together in this project. We're going to talk about the challenges that we're facing and what we're going to do going forward. One of the things that I work on weekly, sometimes daily, is our herd database management system. We have all of our sites that are enrolled. Currently we have 320 sites. We collect them all in this spreadsheet. We have their ARC ID number, which is how we map them. On our map, you see all these dots and little names and numbers, and these are how we categorize all of our different sites. We have the type of site, the GPS coordinates so that Enrique can map these sites, the status by date, the owner and veterinarian, and the head, the number of head that we have in each of these sites. Everything is mapped in this database, and this is what we send back and forth between myself and John Paul and Enrique on a weekly basis. Communication between myself and the producers and vets is ongoing. It's constant. One of the things that the producers and the vets and myself do, hopefully, weekly to every 2 weeks, is they enroll new sites. There's a consent form that Dr. Loula talked about earlier that is a hold harmless agreement, that they are going to disclose everything. There's not going to be anything held against you. We're all neighbors. We're working together in this. So this is something that we have everyone sign before they can be enrolled in our project. This is just a simple format that we use to enroll the sites. The vets send this to me, has all their information so that we can get them enrolled and have them in our project within the next 2-week period so that they can be mapped. We have biweekly status changes due on every other Monday. And so the producers have to send me their status updates if they've had any change. And this is only if they've had a change in their site. We have some sites, like I work for Brenneman Pork, we have several sites enrolled, and I don't submit changes for every site, just somebody who's changed. And those status changes could be filling a site with different PRRS status pigs if they've emptied and are refilling, if there's evidence of infection in the herd from testing, if there's application of vaccine, or if there's proof of stabilization or elimination also due to testing. We also communicate meeting requests. Like Dr. Loula said, we're trying to do meetings every 3 to 4 months. We have mass communications about different meetings that we're having, the bulletins that I'll show you here in a few minutes. If there's any issues or concerns, if a producer or a vet thinks that their site's mapped incorrectly, they contact me, I contact John Paul or Enrique, and we try to get those issues figured out and try to get information back to them as soon as possible so that we're working in a timely fashion and they've got good information going forward. They're small, I know, but these are the biweekly bulletins that I send out. These are sent through the Basecamp website that BI has set up for us. They are sent emailed to each of the producers and veterinarians in the project every 2 weeks. These have our updated demographics on it. If we have any type of status change throughout the period, we don't disclose which site it is. It's got their ARC ID, but you can look on the map and see if your neighbor has changed status so that you know where you need to flow your pigs, if you need to move them so that you can, you aren't going past a positive site. This is a small portion of our map. We have upcoming events. If we're going to have a meeting coming up soon, we like to notify them prior to, a couple weeks so that they can plan ahead. So this is a constant communication between myself and everyone in the group. And, sometimes we have people that are, getting information off of this that they didn't know what was going on, so they have questions, and so they contact me. And this is a way for everyone to stay in constant communication. And through the Basecamp website that I'm going to talk about here in a second, we have the website that Dr. Loula showed a few minutes ago. We compile milestones. We compile messages, anything that I send out, any responses from any of the veterinarians or the producers back to myself are compiled all in this one centralized location. All of our files that we send out to the producers and veterinarians are compiled here so they can go back and see data from 3 months ago, compare those bulletins to what I have sent out the last 2 weeks. We're also collecting a sequence database. We're new to this. This is something that we're just starting to collect, so we don't have a whole lot of information, but John Paul and the folks at BI are working on a regional dendrogram with all of our sequences. It's a work in progress, getting all those sequences from Iowa State or whichever laboratory we're using and getting those to me, then myself getting them to John Paul, and they're working on the dendrogram. We actually, at our last meeting on November 15th, had an example of our dendrogram, so we're moving forward on that. Talk about the hurdles, and communication is key, and sometimes it falls through the cracks. We have some producers that I'm not sure if their information is up to date because I haven't heard from them in a couple weeks. And, for me, I put a lot of work into this, and I want the most up-to-date information, and so I want constant communication between myself and those producers, and when I don't get that back, it's hard for us to know if we have full participation, and we want 100% participation out of all of our producers in the group. So communication is definitely a hurdle, and we're still moving forward. We're trying to get producer buy-in. We still have many sites that aren't contacted in the area yet. Like Dr. Loula said, there could be up to 100 sites that we still haven't mapped, that aren't enrolled, that possibly don't even know about our project yet. Our status change process is a little bit cumbersome. Some of the producers aren't as technically savvy, and the email communication that we're working with, there's a spreadsheet. It's just too much for them, and so that's been a little bit of a challenge that we've been working with. And so when we've been at our meetings these last couple months, I've told them, just a simple email response back or a telephone call works for me. I just want some sort of response. So that's another hurdle that we've been trying to jump over. Unknown site status. We have only 15 sites now out of the 320, which is only 5%, but those unknown sites are the most risky sites because we don't know if they're positive, if they're negative. We just don't know, so we have to consider them positive. Those are the sites that we need to get tested, and we need those producers or those veterinarians to participate and get those sites tested so that we know what we've got in those areas. Like I said, many of the sites in the area aren't contacted yet. They aren't mapped. We don't have consent forms from them, so that's something that we're working on. The local veterinarians are working to get that information from their clients so that we can get more people involved because we do have a high populated area. Oops. Looking forward for Southeast Iowa, we have talked at our last meeting. We're going to try to get some educational materials at local events. We have the Washington County Pork Producers Banquet coming up here in a couple months. We want to have someone speak at that meeting, whether it be myself or one of the vets involved in the program, just to let the producers that aren't involved know what we're doing. possibly get some more buy-in from the producers that haven't been to some of our meetings that are at this banquet. We want them to participate with us, and we want to get more people involved. So hopefully we can have some materials at that event. In October, we had Pork Month in Washington County, and one of the local communities put on a pork fest. And we missed this boat, but we could have had, information pamphlets at this pork fest for local producers that aren't involved to get more information. So that's something we're going to do in the future. We also want to put an informational article in the local newspaper so that the local producers that aren't involved yet know what we're doing. They want to get involved. They have plenty of opportunity to. They can contact myself, may invite them to our next meeting that we have. So we want them to know what's going on in the community and see if they could participate and get involved with us. PRRS assessments are something that we did earlier this summer, and it was successful. We had several sites that we did the PRRS assessments on, but we want to have more involvement in that and get some more sites to do the PRRS assessments. We had interns from Iowa State come and do those with us at a local church and just got everyone together there. So we want to continue to do those assessments and keep up to date on that. Sequence scheduling and tracking. That's something that we're still working on between myself and the vets. If we could get some sort of schedule worked out for all the different sites to be sequenced at least biannually, hopefully more, depending on the status of the sites. That's something that we need to really work on going forward so that we can get the information that we need for this regional dendrogram. So the sequencing, scheduling, making sure that they're getting these sequences done in time and getting the information back to me is something that we're definitely going to look forward to. Producer meetings every 3 to 4 months. We want to continue to get the information to them because sometimes they don't have the chance to look at the bulletins. And I also don't include all of my charts on the bulletins because there's tons of them. So they get a chance to come and listen to what myself and the rest of the local veterinarians and Dr. Loula have to say, and the BI team, and they can hear the progress that we've had. And so we want to continue to keep the producers involved and keep them informed so they know what they're doing is really making a difference. And the one thing we've really started doing is using the measurable data over time. We've just started using this data, so I have some charts that we've been working on, and this is something that we're going to continue to do over the course of the next however many years we continue this project. I'm just going to show you the breeding sites. This is actually the demographics of what we have right now, broken down between breeding, nursery, finishing. We don't have any exhibition sites. 2 truck washes, no females or buying stations. This is the percentage that we have of each of the different sites. This is a lot of data all in one chart. So we've decided that we're going to break it out by site and then also break it down once more by status. And so I'm going to just show you the breeding because I'd show you tons of charts if I showed you everything. So these are our breeding herds, current through last week. As you can see, there's a lot of information there, and we have percentages. This also shows you the site status. The colors are consistent across the board in our project. So you can see the percentage of unknown of breeding herds. We've done great. We don't have any unknown sites anymore. If we break it out, you'll see that our trend line's going down, obviously, because we don't have any unknown sites in our breeding herds. We do in our other sites. Next, we have our positive breeding herds. This just, is going to fluctuate depending upon enrollment or breaks that we have. We've been enrolling 5 to 10 sites per period, so it's going to fluctuate based on the enrollment. And as we continue to get these, hopefully 100 more sites, it's going to continue to fluctuate also. Our positive vaccinated breeding herds, we're going to continue to watch these trend lines. And we actually started our status change process just in August. So it's only been a few months that we've been collecting this data from the producers. So as we get more information, these graphs are going to become more and more cluttered. So we wanted to break this out so that they could see and use this information. Our negative vaccinated breeding herds, again, the trend line. Stable breeding herds, and the negative breeding herds. So this is the information that we're trying to use to chart the data so that we can give the producers usable information when they come to our meetings and they can see what they're doing.